Sometimes reality defies parody. Things get to be so incredibly ridiculous that you would honestly think they're a joke. You encounter people so absolutely disconnected from reality, from context, even from common sense, that they really seem to be a parody of themselves. A couple of weeks ago, we released a video about the ANTIFA boycott of Blastfest in Norway. Although the video was generally well received, there were some who criticized the slippery slope scenario that I described, and where I argued that it's only a matter of time before this kind of thought policing gets out of control. Well, guess who just got proven right? Marduk, the Swedish black metal band, is currently touring North America. Apparently that really bothered some people who were of course happy to dig deep into their bag of scandalous accusations and label them a Nazi band. This is what Black Lives Matter Austin did, although other BLM and ANTIFA organizations around the country are doing the same, with some of them even calling for physical boycotts of the concerts. Together with listing the numbers for the venues and the producers so that people can pressure them via phone to drop the band, Black Lives Matter Austin and their supporters have also asked people to give them poor reviews on Yelp and Facebook, exerting the kind of pressure that idiots boasted about in that one South Park episode.
Why don't you take a break from yelping, Gerald? You seem a little overwhelmed.
I am overwhelmed. Sometimes I don't know what I've gotten myself into. But now everyone relies on my Yelp reviews and I don't want to let anyone down.
Since they are even calling for people to physically go and stop the concerts, it is worth asking whether or not BLM Austin have presented any evidence. Now, of course, if you go to their website, at least when they had it up, you could see that they had a list of reasons why Marduk was clearly a band that had big Nazi sympathies. Let's go through some of those reasons though. According to these groups, Frontschwein, the name of Marduk's tour and of their latest album, refers to the nickname given to Nazi Field Marshal Walter Model because he preferred to lead from the front and was known for his abuse and crudity. This is just false. If they had done basically any research whatsoever, they would have known that the term Frontschwein, literally front peg, was simply a moniker used to refer to soldiers serving in the front lines, similar to how Americans speak of grunts to refer to those serving in combat. Its use is older than World War II, older than the Nazis, and older than Walter Model's behavior in the war. Any book on the topic, fuck any Google search would have shown this, but you know, fuck researching before throwing insane accusations. In what I'm sure must have been a tremendous eureka moment for the BLM people and the ANTIFA organizations behind the boycott, they have realized that Marduk have written songs that reference World War II. Besides pointing out the obvious, like the fact that Marduk have indeed used some war imagery in their booklets and songs, they claim that their live album Warschau is named after the site of a Nazi concentration camp used during the Holocaust. Now it could be that, or it could be, fuck, I don't know, the German name for Warsaw, the fucking capital of Poland, which is the city where they recorded that live album. Although you can see the whole list of accusations on our site, since BLM cowardly removed the page after we started asking questions, and even beyond the obvious ignorance that they demonstrate on the topic, you probably get the gist of it already. Singing about the war, discussing the realities of the conflict, immediately means that you must be a Nazi. This is not the first time that this kind of idiocy has reared its ugly head. That is why Slayer were labeled as Nazis despite the fact that their singer is Tom Araya, who is not white, because they had a song called Angel of Death about Joseph Mengele. And why Sabaton were labeled as Nazis for singing about World War II, even though they have a song about Hitler called The Rise of Evil. It's a really dangerous and stupid idea since it really limits the creativity of the artist, necessarily seeing their songs as endorsements of whatever topic is being discussed in their music. The only way to avoid accusations then would be to limit your repertoire to boring, non-controversial topics. I was really interested to see that part of BLM's idiotic arguments to boycott the band was an interview that I did with Morgan Steinmeier, one of the founders of Marduk. This was an interview that we did some time after Vark Vikernes had been arrested in France under trumped-up terrorism charges, but had been convicted of hate speech for some blog posts he had made. About this topic, Morgan gave what anyone else would see as an absolutely milquetoast statement, saying in regards to his conviction, quote, "It's strange that it's illegal to dislike a religion. I find it really strange that you can't have certain views." From a comment that most people would label as meh, BLM Austin seems to be saying that if you believe that arresting people for their thoughts and opinions is a bad idea, then you're a fucking Nazi. They also take a section from my interview where Morgan mentions that Vark would sometimes crash at his place back in the 90s, although for some reason these Antifa groups say that they were housemates. They take this as a clear sign of Morgan's, fuck, I don't know, racism? Terrorism? I mean, I'm sure that there's a point to it. They sure as hell didn't make that fucking point anywhere in their article, but I'm sure that there is a point to be made based on the fact that some dude stayed at another dude's place back in 1995. They put a lot of emphasis on the figure of Mark Vikernes, who, as I wrote about back in 2013, was a victim of the French government who persecuted him for political reasons. They labeled him a terrorist, they opened fire against his house, held him and his wife without charges, and then let him go because they didn't actually have anything to charge him with. This, of course, didn't stop these Antifa groups from rehashing some of the propaganda about Varg having received, read, and approved of the manifesto written by mass murderer Anders Breivik. It's a demonstrably false statement, but again, fuck the facts, it's all about the narrative. Not wanting to limit their attacks to Marduk alone, these Antifa groups have also extended their hatred towards Incantation, the opening band. In their case, they point out that Craig Pillard, the singer of Disma, an alleged white supremacist, used to be in Incantation. Of course, they don't mention that the last time Pillard was involved in an album was in 1994, or that Pillard's alleged views are not present in Incantation's music. Incantation have never been labeled a white pride band by any stretch of the imagination. But once again, it's about the narrative, not about the facts. In what some might call going full retard, and entering squarely into the world of reptilian conspiracies that would be better suited for an InfoWars forum, one of the organizers of the boycott argued that Marduk's overt anti-Christianity was merely a way to hide their anti-Semitism. By the way, before we go into this accusation, and just for the hell of it, here's some footage of Marduk playing in the known neo-Nazi haven of Tel Aviv. Anyway, without a shred of evidence, they claim that the album Panzer Division Marduk has as a main theme anti-Semitism. And they follow that statement with some quotes lifted verbatim from the self-published book Subgenres of the Beast by Irgan Akegen, where the author talks about National Socialist black metal. Here's where it gets really fucking funny though. If they had just continued reading that book, they would have found that 3 pages later, that same author includes Marduk amongst the bands that have been the victim of false accusations of Nazism and fascism.
You went full retard, man.
And it just goes on and on. Sometimes they even claim that since Marduk has never explicitly disavowed Nazism, then they're a fair target. It's really pure insanity. They accuse you of something, and unless you grovel and beg for their forgiveness, you're guilty. The evidence is secondary. In the spirit of fairness, we approach Black Lives Matter Austin and some Antifa people and ask them to comment on this boycott. In what I'm sure history will record as a moment of bravery and courage, the first thing BLM Austin did was to throw one of their own people under the bus, point the finger at him, and they say that he had all the answers, and that in addition to that, they apparently had another event at the same time, so they would no longer be able to attend the boycott of Marduk. Now, since they had created the event, spread the information, and urged their followers to contact the people involved in the concert, I pressed BLM Austin on this issue. They asked me to never contact them again, and then they blocked us. The same thing happened when we contacted the person that they gave us as the one responsible for the boycott, and who had posted repeatedly on the event page and on other websites regurgitating some of the same lies about Marduk. He never answered us, he just blocked every one of the accounts that we used to contact him. It's always the same pattern, throwing accusations and then ignoring the questions about them, having no qualms in destroying other people's reputations and livelihoods without ever feeling any responsibility for what they do. What happened in Austin is symptomatic of a larger issue. Even if most of the cowards behind the attempted Austin boycott are scattering like cockroaches, others are continuing to push for the boycott in Austin and in other cities. Some of them are calling for all-out violence. The upcoming concert in Oakland, California, for example, has already been singled out as a fair target for these protesters. It's literally the same pack of lies, just with a different address. Here's what we need to do. All of us together need to make it clear to the Antifa thugs, to the BLM crowd, to basically anyone who wants to get in the way of not only freedom of expression, but who are also willing to do it without any regard for the truth, that they can just fuck off.
Every Yelper, get the